Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for the Mughals starting as the Timurids for EU4 1.34 Lions of the North. So the Mughals are obviously one of the most powerful nations that anyone can form in the game, and as the Mughals you can pretty much go on to do the easiest world conquest ever, maybe aside from Austria. And of course there are a lot of candidate countries for forming the Mughals, but I think we all know that the Timurids, because they are the most powerful nation out of any of the candidates in 1444, is the best pick. But as we all know, the Timurids do start off with Shah Rukh right here, and as soon as he dies, all of these vassals that we start off with might become disloyal. So that's why newer players might be deterred from playing the Timurids. Of course, we do start off with cores on most of our subjects and on the nation of Ajam, and by using this guide, you'll be getting your vassals loyal in no time, blobbing out in this entire region and growing in India as well before going on to form the super powerful nation of the Mughals. And before we begin, if you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot, and boys, consider subscribing. I am trying to reach 100k subs before New Year, and maybe with your support, we can do it. Let's take a look at what we need to do as the Timurids to form the Mughals. Alright, here we are as the Timurids, and like I said at the start in 1444, we do start off with Shah Rukh right here, and as soon as he dies, these guys are gonna get a little bit rowdy. In fact, Transoxiana already is, but don't worry, we're gonna get them in order pretty soon. The first thing we want to do is go right here to this tab and enact the lenient taxation ability for minus 15% liberty desire in subjects. This will help get these guys loyal, just like that. Then we're gonna go into our decisions and take these 3 decisions right here. After that, we're gonna go into the estates and do a light estate setup so we don't lose crownland, because if we don't have crownland, our subjects become disloyal. So we're gonna be giving out the monarch point privileges later. Of course, more seasoned players can handle giving these out and still keeping their vassals in order, but for newer players, I don't recommend this. So the first thing we're gonna do is give the ulama religious diplomats, and we're gonna grant a local residence to a scholar, and you should choose the minus 10% aggressive expansion impact. Then we're gonna give the emirs increased levies and strong duchies. This will help out with the subjects as well for minus 10% liberty desire, so that's pretty nice. And then we're gonna give the merchant guilds patronage of the arts and indebted to the merchant guilds. And finally, we're gonna give the Demi guaranteed Demi autonomy as a finisher, but we will give them stuff later as well. Finally, we're gonna summon the Diet, and you can pick whichever agenda is best for you. Then we're gonna seize land. After you do this estate setup, you should be able to take the mission Timurid leadership, which gives us mill points and prestige. Finally, you can go into your subjects and tell all of them to siege. Since we are making money right at the start, we are gonna hire 3 advisors. There is a scripted half-cost level 2 stability discount guy, hire him. There's also a scripted half-cost level 2 diplorep guy, hire him as well, and then get whichever level 1 mill advisor you want, preferably a morale, discipline, or manpower one. I don't have any of those guys as a level 1 advisor, so I'm just gonna take this reinforced speed level 1 mill advisor. Next, you can go into your rivals and rival the nations that have rivaled you. In my case, it's the Ottomans, the Mamluks, and Delhi. Next, we're gonna take this small army down here and destroy 1 cavalry regiment, just like that, and take it up to Herat along with this other army. Additionally, we're also gonna build 2 infantry regiments right there and hire the Free Company right there as well. And that's our army setup for now. Next, with your free diplomats, with one of them, you're gonna start spying on Baluchistan. With the second one, you're gonna start improving relations with the nation that is most disloyal. It's most likely gonna be Transoxiana, just like that. And then this third guy we're saving so we can declare war with him. And before we unpause and wait for December 11th, you can tell your merchant in Samarkand to establish communities. This will help to improve relations with our subjects faster. And you can also tell the merchant in Lahore to do the same thing, and the merchant in Hormuz to do the same thing as well. Once all of our subjects are loyal, we'll get these guys back to maximizing profit. Now it's time to unpause and wait for exactly December 11th. Once you had paused the game, you will get the Gathering Storm event, where it basically tells you that as long as Shah Rukh is alive, your vassals won't be that disloyal. And as soon as December 11th hits, it's time to declare our first war. Now, as you know, in previous patches, we declared war right away and stayed in wars until our subjects were basically loyal enough, but now that in Lions of the North, subjects can declare independence wars while you're at war, this strategy isn't really the same. However, we are declaring wars immediately immediately and staying in wars still because we do want to grow really quick so our subjects are afraid of us. So the wars are still there at the same dates and in the same order, just for a different reason this time. And of course, on December 11th, right away, we are going to declare our first war, which is going to be with Ajam. They'll always be allied to Shirvan. That's something that happens in 99% of the games. And if you're lucky, they won't have allied anyone else. In my case, they've also allied Nogai, but it's not that big of a deal. So simply go ahead and declare on Ajam with a reconquest on whichever province you want, preferably one that's close, just like this, and that's your first war started. In this war, you're gonna want to let your vassals do all of the work. We want them to use up their armies so their armies shrink. We want them to use up their manpower so they're weaker than us. Basically, don't do anything yourself unless Shah Rukh dies during this war, and that is probably gonna happen. So let your subjects do the work. Once Shah Rukh dies and they become disloyal, if they become disloyal at all, then you're gonna want to go in and finish off Ajam. But until Shah Rukh dies, let your boys do the work. Once this diplomat right here is free from declaring the war on Ajam, you can start improving with another subject that's disloyal or that doesn't like you that much. In my case, all of these other guys are loyal, so I'm gonna improve with Sistan because they don't like me that much. And there we go, a couple of months after the game started, April 1st, 1445, in my game right here, Shah Rukh has died. And as we can see right here, a lot of these guys did become disloyal. But at this point, you should have some prestige and you should be able to get some of them loyal and then royal marry them so they keep being loyal, and you'll only have about 2 or 3 loyal guys and 2 or 3 disloyal guys. At this point right here is when I would go ahead and jump in and fight Ajam as well, because when these guys are disloyal, well, they won't want to fight on your behalf. So what I'm gonna do right here is immediately royal marry Khorasan. That got them a little bit more loyal. I'm also gonna placate Fars right here, and when the month ticks over, I'm gonna royal marry them as well. And there we go, 2 months have passed. I placated Fars and Afghanistan and royal married them as well. So now I have 3 loyal subjects. Only Sistan and Transoxiana are disloyal. But once we gobble up Ajam after this war, they'll become loyal as well. At this point, you can go ahead and stab up or wait for an event to stab up. It's totally up to you. Once you get 2 claims on Baluchistan right here, you can recall that diplomat and start spying on Ladakh. A few years after I've started this war, this is how it's going. I've pieced out Nogai, and we're pretty close to piecing out Ajam. I am involved at this point because Transoxiana is not helping out, and they have the biggest army. And once you completely fully occupy Ajam, it is time to peace out. My free company did get stack wiped, unfortunately, which is something you want to try and avoid because we do want to get this mission unlocked right here with the help of the free company, but it doesn't matter because when piecing out Ajam, here's what you're gonna take. Obviously, at this point, we can full annex Ajam and then gain these 2 guys as vassals, but the more vassals we have, the more they're gonna be disloyal, so what I actually don't recommend is doing this. Instead, you can simply not take 1 Ajami province, and instead you can take 2 provinces from Luristan down here, which we do have cores on. So take these provinces right here that I'm taking in my case, along with obviously 9.4 ducats. And that's our first war done. All of these provinces are our cores, so we won't have to use admin or diplo points for these conquests. After this point, you shouldn't have any trouble with your subjects. And as soon as this diplomat right here is back from piecing out Ajam, you can simply go ahead and declare on Baluchistan, just like that. At this point, I've placated Transoxiana twice, and now they're loyal as well, and as soon as the month takes over, I'll be able to royal marry them too, or maybe not because they just became a little bit disloyal again. And once you tech up to tech 4, and it will happen before your subjects, their liberty desire will drop significantly. And now I can royal marry Transoxiana. At this point, once you've beat up Ajam, once you've taken tech 4 in Diplo and Mill, and once you've royal married all your subjects, you won't have any problems with their loyalty anymore. Now, you can sit back and relax and let them fight Baluchistan and later Ladakh. And once your second war is done with Baluchistan, what you're gonna do is full annex them just like that. And that's our second war done. We're a lot bigger now. Now you definitely don't have any problems with subject loyalty. As soon as you free up a diplomat, boom, just like this, simply go ahead and declare war on Ladakh. And that's your third war started. Once again, don't do anything in these 2 wars. If you're lucky, you might not have even been involved in the Ajam war, and for some of you that are super lucky, Shah Rukh may still be alive, and at this point, you won't ever have subject loyalty problems. So, it's time for our third and final war before we annex our subjects with Ladakh. Once again, let your subjects do the work. And in my case, Ladakh has unconditionally surrendered, even though I haven't beaten up their ally. And once you do beat up Ladakh, what you're gonna do is, well, once again, full annex them. And that's our third and final starting war done. If at this point it's still not November 11th, 1454, you need to wait for that date. And once that date does pass, November 11th, 1454, it is time for us to annex 3 of our subjects. And that's gonna be Transoxiana, Khorasan, and Fars. We do have cores on their entire territory, and we have cores on every Afghanistani province except for Ro right here. Now, some of you may think that we shouldn't annex Transoxiana because they have a few cores up in Uzbek right here, but these provinces aren't that worth it for us to give them to Transoxiana and then wait to annex them. And also later, we can simply release the nation of Kazakh, which has cores on all of these provinces right here, so don't worry about that. And once you can annex your subjects, make sure to recall all 3 of your diplomats, and before that, go into your estates and give the Emirs integration policy, just like that. With this, some subjects may become disloyal, but with a little bit of improving relations and placating, you can get them back to loyal. It's most important to do it on Transoxiana, Khorasan, and Fars. And what you're gonna do is start annexing all 3 of these guys at the same time. As we can see right here, it's already at 100%, so as soon as a month takes over, just like this, boom, we've annexed all 3 of those subjects, and we are a lot bigger now. Obviously, these are already our cores, along with the provinces in Ajam as well, so you can go ahead and state these up immediately. After you do this, you should be able to take the mission Indian Raid, which gives us an awesome general, some bonuses to armies, and permaclaims on these areas right here, and you should be able to take the mission Control Lower Persia, which gives us further claims along with money. And you might be able to take the mission Prepare for War, which once again gives us army bonuses and further claims. After this, reconsolidate your armies, state up everything, and it's time to chill a bit, dev the Renaissance, and then continue with our wars. Once you annex your subjects, another thing you can do is check to see which nations might accept being diplo-vassalized by you. You can just hover around this map mode right here, it's in the influence actions offer vassalization, and try to look for the biggest subjects that you can get diplomatically, or subjects that might have a lot of cores to reconquer. In my case right here, Hassa is a pretty big nation that would accept diplo-vassalization, so I'm simply gonna start doing all the regular stuff with them, allying them, royal marrying them, guaranteeing them, sending them gifts until we get to 190 and they'll accept. And there we go, only a little bit of time has passed and Hassa will accept. Now, it's not necessary that you do Hassa as well. Basically, take any opportunity you can get. Which nations look the coolest to vassalize to you, do it. There's no strict rules right here. After this point, what I also recommend is getting 1 or 2 allies in these portions of India. So in eastern or southern India, basically someone like Bengal or Vijayanagar. And in my case right here, I can actually ally Bengal, and I will do that. These Indian nations that we might ally will help us fight these guys over here in this region, and then once we expand close to them, well, we'll simply break our alliance with them and fight them as well. And one more thing, after we've annexed our subjects, we can go ahead and give the Ulama, Religious State, and Clerical Advisory Council. We can give the Emirs, Primacy of the Emirs, and Aristocratic Counselors, and if you have enough Crown Land, you can also give the Merchant Guilds Land of Commerce and Commercial Advisory Board. I'm also going to take new burger loans. Our loans are huge at this point. You can go ahead and start using those to build buildings. Firstly, marketplaces, and then workshops. Of course, you already know by now, marketplaces in all the center of trade and estuary provinces, basically any province that gives you more than 2 trade power, and there's a lot in my case. And there we go, as we can see, I've started building all the marketplaces in all the center of trade provinces. Something else I'm gonna do is bump up this light fleet right here that I've inherited from Fars up to 10 light ships. And at this point, I'm also gonna tell all of the merchants that I previously told to establish communities to go back to maximizing profit. And once you're at Tech 4 in all categories, something else you can start doing is start spawning the Renaissance in your capital, Herat. Simply activate the Encourage Development State Edict. It shouldn't be that expensive because we do have some nice modifiers, and simply start bumping the Renaissance up. And push Herat at least up to 30. You're probably gonna push it to like 38, most likely. At this point, you can also start converting the Shia provinces. For your tier 2 government reform, as the Timurids and later the Mughals, you have 3 choices: strengthen noble privileges, noble officer corps, or compromise with the nobility. By this point, you already know what they do, and you can give out strengthened noble privileges or noble officer corps. Just be careful of the noble's influence. In my case, it's already at 90%, so if I do give them strengthened noble privileges, it is gonna be a problem for me. So if you don't want to risk that high influence, you can simply go with compromise with the nobility, as it's a good one as well. But strengthened noble privileges would be the best. Like I said, keep an eye out on that influence. I'm gonna go with compromise with the nobility. Either one of these three are good. At this point, I can also vassalize Najd. While we're chilling during this point, what you want to focus on is doing this mission right here so you get these claims. Soon, we're going to be continuing our wars, most likely in India if Delhi is weak enough. If not, then we'll push into some of these guys right here. And of course, a lot of you will have the skill to have already formed the Mughals by now, but we're taking it slow and we don't want our nation to collapse, and this guide is meant for new-ish players, so don't worry about the pace. By this point, you should have spawned the Renaissance. Of course, you are going to wait for it to spread since we do have such a big country. Now, very surprisingly here in my game, Kazakh has actually popped out after Nogai lost, and of course I am gonna take this opportunity to diplo-vassalize Kazakh. But if you don't get this opportunity, you are gonna pop them out later as well, because look at the amount of cores they have. Obviously, in your first war versus Uzbek, you're simply gonna take just a few provinces right here and then pop Kazakh out of those provinces. Make sure they are Kazakh culture though, since they do have cores on Kyrgyz culture as well, I think, or maybe not. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna do with Kazakh right now. Ally them, royal marry them, just the usual stuff to diplo-vassalize them. They're already a tributary of Uzbek, but that won't stop us. And there we go, now I can diplo-vassalize them, and at this point I've gotten 3 new diplomatically acquired subjects. You should have 2 to 4 by this point. Small nations or big nations, but mainly nations that you can reconquer their cores. At this point I hired the Tabaristan company so I can unlock this mission right here. It gives us morale, recovery army morale speed, and permaclaims on some areas. You may have already taken it by this point. Once you've chilled a bit, it's time to move on with your wars, and if Delhi, or whichever nation is located right here, is weak enough, you can go ahead and fight them, since they have provinces that we need to form the Mughals. However, if there's a really powerful nation right here and you don't feel like you're strong enough to fight them, you can simply go ahead and pick at some of these guys right here, the smaller nations. In my case right here, Delhi's only allied to the Sindh and Nagaur, and Nagaur won't even help them, so this should be easy. So that's my next war. If you can't fight here, go here. And there's my next war. I'm gonna declare for the conquest of Doaba. And once your war with Delhi, which is most likely gonna be here, is done, and if Delhi is not here, you're simply gonna push through other nations to get to the province of Delhi. Here's what you're gonna take. Make sure to snake up, maybe do something like this, and get to the province of Delhi itself, and get Doaba as well, because Doaba is one of the 3 possible provinces that we need to form the Mughals. It's either Doaba, Lahore, or Central Doab, and then we have to own Delhi as well. So do something like this and then get money and war reps and whatever else you want, but make sure to snake over to Delhi if, of course, the only nation that you're fighting right here owns Delhi as well. Now right here we can do something else. As we can see, we can pop out the nation of Punjab, which does have quite a few cores on these provinces right here. If you've taken something like this, I actually recommend coring these provinces up first, then forming the Mughals, and then you can release the nation of Punjab if you want to reconquer their cores from some of these provinces right here. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna core these provinces up first, then form the Mughals, and then I'm gonna pop out Punjab, and in my case they're gonna pop out of 2 provinces I own, these 2 right here. And that might be your first and only war to get the provinces that you need to form the Mughals with. If there's multiple nations right here, well, you're simply gonna fight multiple nations to get to this province, Delhi. Of course, if you fought in India, now it's time to chill over here a little bit and shift our sights back this way, and if you fought this way, try to become powerful enough so that you can start pushing into India. We're basically diversifying our conquest. At this point, we have 2 routes of expansion, India and the Mashriq, but soon we'll open up more, like the steppes right here and even Arabia. So we'll be able to diversify our conquest and not get as much aggressive expansion with the same nations, and at the same time, we'll avoid coalitions. For a first stage ability, you should take Justified Wars. Every other time that you're gonna choose a taxation ability, get land acquisition. We don't need this anymore. Once you core up everything over here, make sure to state Upper Doab where Delhi is located. And after this point, you will be able to form the Mughal Empire. This is a pretty solid time. Of course, it can be done a lot quicker and it can be done a lot slower as well. Don't worry when you do it, you just do have to do it. And there we go. Boom, just like that, we have become the Mughal Empire. We will take new traditions and ambitions, and we have new missions and national ideas as well. Now, it is a good idea to complete the Timurid missions before you form the Mughals. Of course, I just formed the Mughals right here to demonstrate, but in your game, even if you can form the Mughals, maybe you will want to complete the Timurid missions first. Although the Mughals do have a really extensive mission tree, so it's not really a problem. And now we get Mughal ideas, which are plus 20% CAF combat and minus 25% CCR as starters, really strong. Then we have a tech discount as a finisher, discipline, unrest, idea discount, plus 1 military free policies, tax, prestige, and stab discounts. And of course we have the super powerful tier 2 government reform, the Mughal Diwan system, which gives us tolerance of the true faith and GovCap, but most importantly, we can assimilate cultures into our administration. What does this mean for those of you that don't know? Well, the Mughals is the only nation in the game that can pretty much accept every culture and culture group and gain it as an accepted culture, in this case an assimilated culture, and even more importantly, once we assimilate or conquer every province of a certain culture group, for example the Iranian culture group or the Hindustani culture group, we gain various bonuses right here. Look at it like this: once we conquer all of the Hindustani provinces, we gain minus 10% core creation cost. Once we conquer all of the Iranian provinces, minus 10% advisor discounts. And it's like this with literally every culture group in the game. Every single culture group gives us a bonus, even Maghrebi, even British, even Malay, even Chinese. So that's one of the awesome things about the Mughals. This, along with humanist ideas or something like that, you're basically never gonna have rebels and you're basically always gonna have awesome bonuses. So after you form the Mughals, you've gotten claims on all of these provinces right here, and that is really what you should focus on, conquering the Hindustani provinces so we gain even more core creation discounts faster. But after you've done this, it's time to chill for just a little bit and then move on in a different direction. If you don't have claims on these guys yet, start spying on someone like Biapas, for example, or Mushasha. Of course, as the Mughals, because we become an Indian Sultanate, we also gain different estates, so we will have to do the estate setup once again. And something else that you want to do after forming the Mughals is move your main trade capital back to Persia. As we can see, we're not making money from trade almost at all because our main trade node has moved to Doab right here. We don't want that to be the case. So simply move your main trade capital back to Herat, just like this. Your regular capital can remain Delhi. After this point, you can pop out Punjab if you want to. Boom, just like that, I've popped them out of these two provinces and I can reconquer these cores right here. We're going to be doing this a lot in India, with nations that we can release and reconquer their cores, or former nations that have existed and we can militarily vassalize them and reconquer their cores as well. We have Andhra right here, a bunch of nations down in southern India that we're going to find later, and some nations in northern India as well. Anyway, for the estate setup, for now, we're going to give the Brahmins guaranteed Brahmin autonomy, which means every own province of Dharmic faith doesn't contribute to religious disunity, basically all the Hindu provinces. Then if you have enough army tradition, you can give the Rajputs Rajput officer corps. I don't in my case, so I'm going to give it later. And then finally, we're going to give the Jains Jain political control, indebted to the Jains, and Jain clerical class. At this point, you shouldn't be improving relations with Sistan and Afghanistan to annex them when we can. At this point, I'm going to start annexing Afghanistan as well. Make sure to give these guys integration policy, because it will go away once you form the Mughals. And there we go. I'm going to start annexing Afghanistan, and there we go, I'm gonna start annexing Afghanistan. Ideally, you do this before you form the Mughals, because when we do form the Mughals, you lose the cores on Afghanistan that we had as the Timurids. Now that I've chilled a bit, I'll be continuing with my next war, which is gonna be versus Mushasha right here. Like I said, we're diversifying our conquests while mainly focusing on this region right here to get the Hindustani cultured provinces. So we hit India, now I'm gonna hit this region. After this, I'll probably go up north and fight the hordes. You should be doing the same, pushing in these 4 different directions. And like I said, I'll be declaring on Mushasha. They're allied to QQ, but it's not a problem at this point. And there we go, now that I've defeated Mushasha, I will be full annexing them. If you're wondering why I have so many points, it's because I haven't teched up, and I'm not gonna tech up until I embrace the Renaissance. We're not really fighting nations that are way stronger than us, so I don't really need the tech advantage and stuff like that. Is this a good idea? To be honest, I don't know. I think so. So I'll only tech up once I get the Renaissance. Once you do hit Admin Tech 5, you will be able to take your first idea group, and as the Mughals, since we're blobbing out so hard, I do recommend the classic blobbing opening of Diplo Admin. Diplo is gonna help us out quite a lot with the diplomats because we will be having a lot of vassals. The same goes for diplomatic relations. Diplo rep is good to integrate them. Improved relations will help us minimize coalitions, and then the Diplo tech discount and province war score cost are very important. This will enable us to take a lot more a lot faster. So Diplo ideas for your opener. At this point, it's time for me to continue my wars. You will be doing the same, and like I said earlier, we're diversifying our conquests. At this point, once you've hit India once, and once you've hit these guys over here once, it's a good idea to hit some of the hordes so you can pop out Kazakh and then reconquer their cores. As you all know earlier, I diplo-vassalized Kazakh because they were already popped out, so now I'm going to be declaring on Uzbek and getting as much of their cores back as I can. In your war, when you fight Uzbek, take a few provinces so you can pop out Kazakh, and then we'll take the rest later. We want to use most of their cores for reconquest. You don't really want to pop them out of 20 provinces, right? Because then it defeats the purpose of releasing them and reconquering their cores. So I'm simply going to declare on Uzbek right here for the reconquest of Atakent, which is this province right here. For your tier 3 government reform, we do have a very nice option here, which is the Mansabdari system, and it gives us minus 0.3 yearly army tradition decay, which is actually really strong, and plus 150 gov cap. This is a unique one, and it is, I think, better than all of the regular ones, so go with this for your tier 3 government reform. And now that I've defeated Uzbek, here's what I'm gonna do, and this is what you should do with Uzbek in your second war, or maybe even in your first one if you found Kazakh like this. What I'm gonna do is give Kazakh these provinces back, which is almost all of their cores that they have on Uzbek. I'm not gonna give them this province right here simply because I want to do something else. I want to take this province from Uzbek right here myself, and you'll see the following reason, and this isn't really necessary, but it is a cool thing that you can do. As we can see right here, I've just given Kazakh almost all of their cores back, and they have one more core on Uzbek, and then a bunch more on Chagatai, which of course I'm gonna take later, and which you should do later as well. But something else that I'm gonna do right now is release the nation of Sibir from this one province right here, and then they have cores on the rest of Uzbek. Sure, these aren't really that wealthy provinces, and you could conquer them pretty easily, but why not save ourselves some admin points for India and for the Middle East, and instead use Diplo points for these provinces when we annex these subjects once we've reconquered their cores. So with just these two subjects right here, Kazakh and Sibir, you can basically get all of this area right here for pretty much no admin points, and you can dominate Central Asia and Western Siberia. But now that I've hit India, and I've hit the Middle East, and I've hit the hordes, it may be time for me to push into Arabia a little bit, or maybe even go back to India. Of course, you will be doing the same. Like I said, diversify your conquests. As you can tell, we're playing pretty heavily with subjects, and we will continue to do so, even though we have such high core creation cost discount. Once you hit admin tech 6, that's when the ball really starts rolling on making money. As we can see right now, I'm making about 8.5 ducats a month, which isn't a lot at all for a nation of this size. But once you hit admin tech 6, you will be able to build workshops. So go ahead and take any giant loans that you can, or maybe even regular loans, since they will be pretty big by this point, and start building workshops in all the high value trade good provinces, which is actually most of the provinces that we own, like paper, silk, cotton, spices, salt, copper, iron, gems. You already know. Build them in all the high value trade good provinces. Even if you won't make that much money from them now, once you lower autonomy, once you get them devved up, and once you put manufactories in there, you'll be rolling in cash. And there we go, I just started construction on a bunch of workshops. Let's see how much I make in a year when these are done. At this point, I've also annexed Afghanistan. You've probably already done this way earlier. And now I'll also start annexing Sistan. You may also have done this already. If you haven't, do it. Another thing you can do to your subjects is make them divert trade to you. This will increase your income by a considerable margin, depending on how big your subjects are. Workshops have been built, now making 11.5 ducats a month. Not a bad increase. My truce with Delhi has expired, so it is time for me to continue my conquest in India. Aggressive expansion is no longer existent, and at this point, it's time for me to retake Punjab's cores, and along with some other provinces that Delhi owns that I have claims on. Like I said, in this early part, we're focusing on the Hindustani culture group provinces. So, since Delhi is allied to Bengal, what I'll do first right here is make Bengal break their alliance with Delhi using favors, because I do have a lot. Apparently I had 71, and now I'll go ahead and declare on Delhi. So after you've hit these guys and these guys, go back to India. If you can't, go to Arabia. It's pretty simple. And I'm gonna do a reconquest for Lahore. And now that my war with Delhi is done, and you'll be doing the same with whichever nation is located right here that you're fighting, I'm gonna give Punjab their cores back, which is these provinces right there, and then I'm gonna take these provinces myself right there, which is the provinces that I have claims on. And that's my war with Delhi right here done. We've grown Punjab and reconquered almost all of their cores, and we've gotten the provinces that we needed as well. and that's my second war in India done. Aggressive expansion at this point isn't too bad. Honestly, I could hit this region once again, or, like I said, I could diversify my conquests and fight somewhere in Arabia or over here, or hit the hordes again. You should be doing the same. And actually, even though it is time to diversify our conquests, I am gonna declare on Jaunpur right here in my case, because they've grown quite large, and with the help of Bengal, we can easily take them down. So, the rule doesn't always apply that you have to diversify your conquest. You should also check aggressive expansion. And these are more general tips rather than a Mughal playthrough tip, but AE in India isn't too bad, and we gotta take care of Jaunpur before they grow way too big. So I'm just gonna declare for this province right here, call in Bengal, and in this war I'm gonna take as much as I can up to around 50 aggressive expansion. Of course, in the provinces that we have claims on, which are primarily Hindustani cultured provinces. And there we go. And now that my war with Jaunpur is done, I'll be taking these provinces right here. All of them are provinces that I have claims on, and all of them are provinces in the Hindustani culture group. That's what we're focusing on. I could take a lot more, of course, but then a lot of aggressive expansion would be generated and we'd just get slowed down by coalitions. So it's enough to chip away at nations like this. And that's my first war with Jaunpur done. Of course, you may not necessarily be fighting Jaunpur, you may be fighting other nations, but like I said, in India, we're focusing on the Hindustani culture provinces and the provinces we have claims on. In fact, our entire mission tree, all of these starting missions want us to conquer over here. So that's what we're doing. That's why I said it's a good idea earlier to complete some of the Timurid missions, because from those missions I think we do get some claims over in this region right there. Now, because Punjab have all of their cores back, I will start annexing them as well. It is gonna cost a lot, they are a pretty big vassal, but it has to be done. These are valuable provinces, we need to own them. Now, once again, I'm shifting my focus on conquest from India over to the Middle East to fight Karakoyunlu because they don't have any allies. And from Karakoyunlu, we can release a very nice subject, the nation of Iraq, which has a bunch of cores on them. Of course, Syria can be released from over here as well, but it's not Syrian primary culture, so I'm not exactly sure if we can release them instead of Fadl. So yeah, Iraq is definitely a nation that we're going to be releasing. QQ is probably still going to own this in your case, unless the Mamluks and the Ottomans have gotten involved, but whichever nation is right here, we're gonna fight them and release Iraq from them. So that's your focus over here when expanding in the Middle East. I'm gonna declare for the province of Sari. It is a valuable province that we want to own, where we might be spawning some institutions later. Of course, if it's not in our capital, Delhi. So it's time to hit QQ for me. You should fight whichever nation is over here. Or if you've already fought over here, push into Arabia or hit the hordes again. For your second idea group as the Mughals, of course you should take admin ideas. The minus 25% CCR paired with the ones in our national ideas will make coring insanely cheap, along with the minus 10% from assimilating the Hindustani culture, insanely cheap cores and extremely quick coring time. The gov cap is gonna help a lot, the advisors are great too, and the merc stuff isn't bad either, along with the admin tech discount. So admin ideas for your second idea group. And now that my war with QQ is done, this is what I'm gonna take. I'm gonna take this province right here so I can pop out Iraq. You should be doing something similar, and then I'm gonna take some other provinces for myself, such as this for example. And that's my war with QQ done. Perfect. We expanded quite a lot over in this region, and now I can pop out another vassal, which is gonna be the nation of Iraq, just like that. And now we can reconquer their cores in the next war from them, or maybe from the Mamluks or the Ottomans, whenever we get there. And these are very nice silk producing center of trade provinces up here, so that's why I focused on them. And this is simply border war, so I have no explanation for what I took here. But now, because I fought in India twice, and because I fought in the Middle East once, it's time to go back to the hordes and maybe retake some Kazakh or maybe even Sibir cores. In my game right here though, Ming is pretty big and they have a lot of tributaries, so I am gonna have to be careful with that. Hopefully in your game you have a little bit more luck and Ming isn't this blobbed out and doesn't have this many tributaries. You may notice that I'm not focusing on Arabia too much, and that's simply because these provinces down here, they aren't too valuable right now. Now that my truce with Uzbek is done, I'll declare on them once again to retake Sibir's cores up here and to retake this final Kazakh core. So there we go. And by the way, I'm not fighting Orissa, I'm just helping out Bengal. And there we go, quick and easy war with Uzbek is done, and now they don't exist anymore. Kazakh has gotten all of their cores back from them, along with Sibir. Of course, these guys still have a lot of cores left on Chagatai, Ming, and Oirat, but that's just something I'm gonna have to deal with later. But these are two very nice vassals that you can reconquer their cores. Sure, these provinces aren't too valuable, but like I said earlier, why not? At this point in the game, I've allied the Ottomans. It's more of a why not thing, and to deter any coalitions that might form from attacking us. Of course, we will want to block them off over in this region to prevent them from expanding into us further. For your tier 4 government reform, I recommend taking maintain the balance of power for all estates loyalty equilibrium plus 5%. But later, when you unlock humanist ideas, and you will be doing that, you might want to swap over to separate the clergy from the state for some innovativeness and max tolerance of heretics and heathens. But for now, maintain the balance of power. At this point, I'm shifting my focus back to India. You should be doing the same, and I'm gonna clean up some of these small guys up here. Sure, they aren't in the Hindustani culture group, but then again, the only nations in the Hindustani culture group are Malwa and Jaunpur, and they're pretty big at this point, so we'll deal with them later. I'm fighting these nations right now. Now that these nations have unconditionally surrendered, I'll simply full annex them. Now that my truce with Jaunpur has expired, I'll hit them again in order to retake the final Hindustani provinces that they own, along with some additional provinces if AE permits it. So there we go, I'm gonna declare for their capital, Jaunpur. At this point, I've also annexed Punjab. And there we go, now that I've defeated Jaunpur, I'll take all of these provinces which are in the Hindustani culture group, along with some additional provinces, like these over here for example. And that's enough for now. I'll deal with them later. Now all I have to do to assimilate the Hindustani culture group is take these provinces right here from Malwa. And at around this point, you might be able to take some of these first missions right here, which all focused on conquest in this region. I can take the mission Pacify Punjab, which gives me further perma claims on the rest of India and local production efficiency and state maintenance in Lahore. And these are the claims I got, mainly on Sindh. Because at this point you've also annexed Afghanistan, you should be able to take the mission Afghan Frontier, which gives us more perma claims and local defensiveness. And by around the 1490s, your realm should look a little something like this. Basically, we started off as the Timurids, and through the old way, basically the old strategy by fighting a lot of wars before our subjects can break free, we did the same thing this time, except our subjects could break free, but this time we didn't do it so they couldn't declare it. This time we did it because we could grow and outgrow them so they could be scared of us. And after 10 years had passed, after we fought Ajam, Baluchistan, and Ladakh, we were able to integrate our 3 largest subjects that we had cores on and later push into India and form the Mughals. Like I said earlier, it might be a good idea to finish the Timurid missions before forming the Mughals. There's no need to rush. However, I did do it just for the purposes of this video to show you what forming the Mughals is like. And like I said, after you form the Mughals, you should have focused on conquering northern India primarily so you can unlock your initial mission tree branches, and so we could also assimilate the Hindustani culture group and get 10% more discount on core creation cost. And right now in my game, CCR is minus 30%. Once I take the 25% from this, it'll be minus 55, and then another 10% from here, that's minus 65% core creation discount in the early game, not to mention later when we get admin efficiency and stuff like that, and even more bonuses from our missions and ideas as well. And of course, after you form the Mughals, you should have diversified your conquest like I did, hitting India once, then maybe pushing into Arabia. I didn't do that because the Mamluks and Hormuz are present right here, and these provinces aren't that valuable at the start. But then in the Middle East, then fight some of the hordes right here, retake Kazakh scores, retake Sibir scores. Hopefully you had a little more luck than me, and Oirat and Ming weren't over here, so you wouldn't have to fight them. And hopefully by this point, you've retaken all of Kazakhs and all of Sibir scores, and you should be done with that. After that, you can push this way and this way. Over in the Middle East, there are nice vassals to release and reconquer their cores. You should be doing that as well. I have Iraq right here ready to reconquer their cores from QQ. Later, I'm gonna pop out Syria from here and reconquer their cores, as we can see. And you might not think that reconquering subject cores is that important when we have that much core creation discount, but it is still important to save some admin points here and there so we can spend them elsewhere, like in India. And of course, keep an eye out on subjects that you can release: Iraq, Syria, Kazakh, Sibir, nations over in southern India, Andhra or Orissa over here, for example, nations that I might pop out, other big nations that might not exist or that you could vassalize diplomatically, Mewar, for example. Gujarat here doesn't exist in my case. There's lots and lots of opportunities, so just keep exploring by hovering over cores of nations that don't exist, and you'll find some good ones to reconquer their cores, like these two down in the south, for example. And with that, just keep following your mission tree. It pretty much tells you where to conquer. Most of your conquests will be focused on India. We don't really need to push any other directions. Of course, you could own all of India by now if you're a seasoned player, but just keep following the mission tree. Keep conquering all these culture groups so you can gain these nice bonuses: admin discount from Iranian, core creation discount from Hindustani, artillery discount from Altaic, production efficiency, even more CAF combat, prestige per development for missionary, trade efficiency. Like I said, every single culture group in the game gives us some sort of bonus as the Mughals, even the most obscure ones that you've never heard of. We get a bonus from all of them once we conquer all of the provinces in that culture group. And after this point, you'll continue to expand in the same directions we've already been expanding in. Like I said, following our mission tree, even though it does mostly focus on conquering Asia, we're still going to be pushing west as well, pushing into the Middle East, in Arabia, in Anatolia, later even the Balkans, Egypt. This right here isn't that important. These are pretty much poor provinces, so the region you're going to want to focus on mainly is this right here, from the Balkans and Egypt all the way to Southeast Asia and even China. Your mission tree gives you permaclaims on most of the stuff in Asia that we need to conquer. By this point, this is what my armies are looking like. I have two 39k stacks. They're each comprised of 24 infantry, 8 cavalry, and 7 artillery. More cavalry than usual because we do have pretty high cavalry combat ability, as you know, as the Mughals. So in a normal run, this would be 24-4-7. Right now it's 24-8-7 because we have higher cav combat ability. Not focusing on navies too much. We don't really need them. Focus on your armies. These guys are attritioning, of course. They were split up. I just merged them to show you what the army looks like, and you'll continue to grow it. Force limit should be massive. Manpower should be massive. You should have more than me. I'm just lazy and keep stacking. And income should be excellent by now. I'm making 30 ducats a month, which isn't bad at all. And of course, by this point, you should not have only been conquering, but you should have been focusing on building buildings as well. These are all the marketplaces that I've built in most of the center of trade provinces. There we go. I can build a couple more in the other center of trade or silk provinces that I've conquered. Look at all the workshops that I've built in all the high value trade good provinces. Oops, I didn't want to build one in a cow province, but that doesn't matter. In the high value trade good provinces, you already know. And of course, I've built some army buildings as well, a couple of churches here and there, and you will keep building these same buildings, marketplaces, workshops, later manufactories, and of course, don't forget courthouses and town halls later on. These don't take up a building slot anymore, and we will need that because as you guys can see right here, I'm at 1,004 out of 1,000 gov cap. So playing with vassals and reconquering their cores, that's not the only reason we have so many subjects. We will also need a lot of subjects in order to manage our governing capacity. Of course, you can always give out these sort of privileges for plus 100 gov cap for all 5 of the estates. So be careful with gov cap, play with subjects, build these buildings to reduce governing cost. Of course, as the Mughals, will have a ton of great projects that we start off with or will get later on, and you're pretty much gonna have no shortage of money. So build all of them, upgrade all of them to tier 3. You will have the money to do so. There are very, very nice projects over here that you can take advantage of. Of course, we did open up with diplomatic and administrative ideas. This is a standard opening for any blobbing campaign, such as the Mughals, for example, or maybe even a world conquest. After diplo and admin, you should go with either trade or influence, depending on if you want to play with subjects heavier in the later game or not. If you plan on playing with subjects the entirety of the campaign, go with influence. If you're not that down with playing with subjects, go with trade. And for your 4th idea group, you should take humanist. And humanist ideas paired with the assimilation mechanic that the Mughals have means that you won't be seeing a lot of rebels at all once you complete humanist. After that, the next 4 idea groups are up to you. You can take some mill ones to buff up your army for when you fight the Europeans or the Ottomans, or maybe even Ming if they're strong enough. If not, you can just keep taking some of these right here. You might not even need mill ideas as the Mughals in the hands of the player. This is what we took for our first 4 government reforms. Like I said, the Indian Sultanate, Mughal Diwan, and Mansabari system, you should keep them. For tier 4, we took maintain the balance of power. I do recommend switching to separate the clergy from the state once you take humanist. For tier 5, you should take either meritocratic recruitment for advisor discounts or the Zobt system for even more gov cap. I do recommend this slightly more. For tier 6, you should take rural decree for yearly absolutism and +5 max absolutism. For tier 7, you can embrace the economic theory or empower the burghers, so one of these two, or if you have economic, you can take this one as well. For tier 8, I recommend this one for -5 years of separatism paired with a -10 from humanist. It's gonna be super smooth sailing, no rebels at all. For tier 9, all of these are super powerful. You can choose whichever one you want to based on your gameplay when you get there. Any of them is a valid choice. And for tier 10, I recommend political absolutism. And like I said, by around the 1490s or 1501 in my case, your realm should look a little something like this. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that I should do a guide on. If you want to watch me do stuff like this live, you can follow me on twitch.tv/TheRedHawkLive. And if you want to catch up on stuff from over there, you can subscribe to the second channel, link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot. And boys, consider subscribing. I am trying to reach 100k subs before New Year, and maybe with your support, we can do it. And you can become a member today and join the Discord. The link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.